I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with Jenny for about 5 years now. We got married pretty young, and honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. We weren't perfect, but I trusted her, and I thought she trusted me. We had our ups and downs, sure, but nothing out of the ordinary. That was until last weekend, that damn family reunion. It was supposed to be a nice weekend, just catching up with family, eating good food, maybe some drinks. But it turned into the day I'll never forget. Jenny's family lives out in the suburbs, big house, a lot of relatives coming and going. Her dad, Tom, is a good guy, always been kind to me like an uncle. And her mom, Susan, is loud and a little bitchy but harmless. Anyway, everything was fine until Saturday afternoon. I was in the backyard chatting with a few cousins, and Jenny was inside with her family. She looked kinda tense, but I figured that was just her usual attitude when the family's around. Then I noticed something weird. Jenny was in a rush to go inside, her face kind of tight, avoiding eye contact. I thought maybe she needed to pee or something, so I didn't think much of it. But then I saw her go into the guest bathroom. That's where it started. The bathroom has a window, not big, but enough for me to see just enough. I was standing there talking to my cousin Dave when I saw her come out of the bathroom. But here's the thing, she wasn't alone. I saw her, just for a second, walking out with someone. It wasn't her usual crowd. It looked like her dad's best friend, Greg. I froze. Greg's been friends with Tom for years. They grew up together, played golf, did gay stuff. Honestly, I've always liked Greg. He's kind of like an uncle to me, always friendly, always joking around. But seeing him with Jenny in that moment, coming out of that bathroom, I felt like my stomach dropped. My mind started racing. What the hell were they doing in there? Were they just talking? Was it something innocent? I wanted to believe that, but I knew better. People don't sneak out of a bathroom at a family reunion for a chat. I kept watching from where I was, pretending to be interested in the conversation, but I was really trying to process what I saw. Greg looks a little guilty, actually, like he caught me watching him. Jenny, she looked a little flustered but quickly recovered. She threw on her typical bitchy smirk and said something like, "Oh, Mike, you're so paranoid. Relax." That's when I started feeling that cold rage building up. My gut was telling me something was wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that I just caught her cheating, and not just some flirty bullshit. This was real. I didn't confront her then. Instead, I played it cool, went back outside, and kept pretending everything was normal. But inside, my mind was spinning. I kept thinking about how she's been acting lately, how she's been dismissive, short with me, brushing off my questions about her whereabouts. I brushed it off at first, thinking she was just stressed or maybe bored. But now I knew better. I knew she was hiding something, and whatever it was big. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that moment, that brief glimpse of her and Greg in the bathroom. I felt sick. It was like I was staring at the betrayal I'd always feared but never expected to actually see. I wanted to believe she was just fooling around with some guy, maybe someone she'd met at work or some stupid fling. But Greg, that hit different. I've known him forever. He's been like family. How could she do this with him? How could she betray not just me but her own family, her own morals? It was as if everything I thought I knew about her was a lie. I kept asking myself, how do I even confront her? How do I even process this? I knew I needed to get the truth out of her, but I also knew that whatever I said or did next would change everything. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to fall. My mind was a tornado of anger, hurt, confusion, and that sinking feeling of betrayal. Everything I believed about her, about us, felt shattered in that moment. And I knew with absolute certainty that my life was about to change forever. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, and the events of the night kept replaying in my mind. I kept thinking about what I saw, about Greg's face when he caught me looking, about Jenny's smirk when she told me to relax. I've been married to her long enough to know that she's good at hiding things, but that moment in the bathroom, it was too obvious. And the worst part, I didn't even have proof, just a fleeting image burned into my mind and a gut feeling that I couldn't ignore anymore. I knew I had to talk to her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. That day we were supposed to go to the lake with everyone, but I made up some excuse about feeling sick. I stayed home alone, pacing around the living room trying to come up with a plan. Do I accuse her outright? Do I wait and gather evidence? Do I just ask her directly and see what she says? The truth is, I was terrified of what she might say, how she might lie her way out of it, or worse, turn it around on me. Finally, around noon, I decided I couldn't put it off any longer. I called her, told her I needed to talk, and told her to come over to the house. When she arrived, she looked annoyed, typical Jenny. She's always been bitchy when she's caught off guard or annoyed. I could see her smirk, that fake "I'm better than you" look she puts on when she's trying to dismiss your concerns. That's when I decided to confront her head on. "Jenny," I started, trying to keep my voice steady, "we need to talk about something. I saw you yesterday going into that guest bathroom with Greg. I saw how you looked. Don't fucking lie to me. I saw you. What's going on?" Her eyes widened for a second, then she rolled her eyes, scoffing. "Oh, really that? You're just jealous because Greg been like family forever. You're overreacting, Mike. You're always so paranoid. It's nothing." I felt a hot surge of anger. "Nothing? Nothing? Are you kidding me? I saw you sneaking out of the bathroom with him, Jenny. You think I'm stupid? You think I didn't notice how you've been acting different? You've been cold, dismissive, and now I find you in the bathroom with him. That's not nothing. That's betrayal." She crossed her arms and snorted. "Betrayal? Please, Greg and I are just friends. Maybe I was talking to him about your sorry ass. You're so insecure, Mike. You're imagining things. You always do. Maybe I was fixing my makeup or some stupid shit like that. You're crazy." That's when I lost it. "Fixing your makeup? Are you serious? That wasn't just some innocent chat, Jenny. I saw the look on your face. You're lying. You've been lying about everything, about where you're going, who you're talking to. And Greg, don't even try to pretend he's innocent. I know what I saw. I saw you too in that bathroom. The way you were acting, the way he looked at you. Tell me the truth now, or I swear to God this is over." She rolled her eyes again, but I saw the flicker of something, nervousness, anger, I wasn't sure. She finally snapped back, "Fine. Yeah, I was in the bathroom with Greg, but it was just sex, okay? That's all it was. I didn't mean for it to go that far, but he's been there for me, especially lately. You never listen to me, Mike. You're never there when I need you. Maybe I just needed someone who actually cares." The words hit me like a punch in the chest. Sex, just sex, that's all it was. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt sick. I'd always known Jenny could be bitchy and manipulative, but this was next level. I looked at her, her sneering face, and I saw the deception in her eyes. She was lying, trying to justify it. I wanted to scream, to tear her apart, but I held myself together. I kept my voice steady, but inside I was boiling. "Just sex," I repeated. "That's it. You're telling me you cheated on me with your dad's best friend and it's just sex. Do you hear yourself? Do you know how sick that sounds? That's not just some fling. That's betrayal of everything we had. How long has this been going on?" She shrugged, a little too casually. "A couple of months. It just happened. I didn't plan it, Mike. It's not like I wanted to hurt you. I was just lonely and Greg was there. It meant nothing." "You're overreacting." "Overreacting, that's what she calls it." I wanted to smash something, but I knew I had to stay calm, at least for now. I told her to leave, that I needed space, that I'd think about everything. She stormed out, muttering about how I was crazy, how I didn't understand her. And I was left there, feeling numb, like my world was crumbling. I mean, I knew she'd lied before, but this was something else. Greg, my father-in-law's best friend, someone I'd seen as family. She slept with him. She lied about it, denied it, and then admitted it like it was nothing. That night I couldn't sleep again. The betrayal cut deep. I kept thinking about everything she said, how she dismissed my feelings, how she called me insecure. I felt so stupid for trusting her, for believing she was different. I'd always known she had a bitchy side, but I thought she was loyal. Turns out that loyalty was just a mask. My mind kept replaying her words, her arrogance, her lying face. I realized that I had been blind, hoping for the best, but she'd been sneaking around behind my back for months. Part of me wanted to confront Greg, to tell him I knew what he did, that I was coming for him next, but I also knew that wouldn't solve anything. No, I had to think carefully about what to do, how to handle this, and most of all, how to deal with the aftermath. My trust was shattered, and I knew life would never be the same after this. I was stuck somewhere between heartbreak and rage, with no clear way out. The next few days were a blur of anger, sadness, and confusion. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to make sense of how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind to her lies. Jenny was already acting like nothing had happened, still bitchy, still dismissive, throwing her little jabs and acting like I was overreacting. It made it worse. She thought she could just brush it off, like I was crazy for even questioning her. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it that easily. I knew I had to plan my next move carefully. I couldn't just blow up and lose my temper. That would give her even more ammunition. I needed proof, something solid before I confronted her again, so I started digging. I installed a hidden app on her phone, something I'd never done before but felt necessary now. I wanted to see who she was talking to, what she was hiding. I knew she'd lie, spin stories, deny everything, but I'd have something concrete. The first few days, nothing much. Just her usual dismissiveness and bitchy attitude. But then I started to see messages pop up. Flirty texts, references to Greg, stuff that made my blood boil. She was definitely keeping a secret and she didn't even realize I was watching. I felt a sick mix of satisfaction and disgust. The proof I needed was right there in black and white. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I kept gathering everything, waiting for the right moment to confront her again. Meanwhile, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling around the betrayal over and over. I'd loved Jenny, believed in her, trusted her. And now I found out she'd been lying to me for months, sleeping with someone I thought was like family. That's what hurt the most, the fact that she'd betrayed my trust so completely, so casually. Like it was nothing. The image of her with Greg, that sneering, arrogant look, was burned into my brain. One night I finally couldn't hold it in anymore. I knew I had enough evidence. I decided I was going to confront her for good. I wanted to hear her lie again, to see her face when she knew I knew the truth. I set up a little trap. I told her I needed to talk face to face, and she agreed, probably thinking I was ready to forgive or whatever she was hoping for. But I was. When she arrived at my place that evening, she was acting all fake, trying to act like everything was normal. I looked at her coldly and said, "You lied to me, Jenny. All those times you said it was just work or stress or whatever. I know what you've been doing. I have your messages. I know about the affair with Greg." Her eyes flashed with a moment of panic, then she scoffed, "Oh, come on, Mike. That's bullshit. You're crazy. You've been spying on me. You're just jealous because Greg is the one who actually cares about me. You never do anything around." Here, I needed someone who would listen, and clearly, you're too insecure to handle it. I felt my jaw tight. Too insecure? No, Jenny. I'm just tired of your bullshit. You lied, you cheated, and you tried to hide it. I'm done pretending this is okay. You've been sleeping with him, with Greg, and you think you can just brush it off. How long has this been going on? Months. She rolled her eyes again, that same dismissive look. Look, Mike, I didn't plan for any of this. It just happened. I was lonely and Greg was there. It doesn't mean I love him or that I want to leave you. I needed attention, okay? And you're never around. You're always working, always busy with your stupid hobbies. Maybe if you paid me more attention, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. That was the moment I lost complete control. Attention. You call cheating on me with your father's best friend attention. You're unbelievable. Do you even realize what you've done? You've betrayed everything, my trust, our marriage, your family. And for what? Some stupid ego boost, some feeling you get when you cheat. She stared at me, her face hardening. I don't care what you think, I don't need your approval, and honestly, I don't even want to be married to someone who's so insecure and obsessed with control. Maybe I'll leave. Maybe I'll take Greg with me. At least he cares about me. I felt a cold fury rise inside me. I'd always tried to be patient, tried to be the good husband, but this was too much. I wasn't going to be some fool who got played like a damn fool. I told her she needed to pack her things and leave, that I was done, that I never wanted to see her again, and I was calling her father because I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. She stormed out, screaming about how I was crazy and how she'd never loved me anyway. That night, I sat alone in the dark, feeling hollow. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach and left to bleed out. All the trust I'd ever had in her, all the hopes for our future, just evaporated in one moment. The betrayal cut so deep I wasn't even sure I'd ever recover. I kept thinking about the good times, about the moments I thought we shared, but now I knew it was all a lie. She'd been lying to my face, sleeping with someone I considered family, and I was just supposed to pretend none of it happened. I realized I'd been naive. I'd wanted to believe she was better than that she loved me. But the truth was, she never did. She was just a bitchy, manipulative woman who got bored and decided to fuck around. I don't know what hurt worse, the deception, the lies, or the fact that I still loved her even after everything. That's what hurts the most. The feeling that I was stupid for trusting her, stupid for thinking she was different. Now I'm left here trying to figure out what to do next. Do I fight for the marriage? Do I cut her out completely? I honestly don't know anymore. All I know is I've lost my trust, my respect, and some part of myself that I'll never get back, and I have to live with that. The days following the confrontation were even worse. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, trying to piece together what had just happened. Every time I looked at her stuff, every time I saw her face, I felt this mixture of disgust and heartbreak. I knew I had to do something drastic, but I wasn't sure what yet. Part of me wanted to cut her out completely, erase her from my life like she was some bad dream. But another part, that was just aching for closure, for some kind of resolution that would make sense of all this chaos. I started to think about how to handle it all rationally. I didn't want to act impulsively and do something I'd regret. I'd always been the calm, collected type, even in bad situations. So I decided to gather more evidence, just to make sure I wasn't jumping the gun. I didn't trust her anymore, but I needed absolute proof before I made any final decisions. I enlisted the help of a friend who knew a thing or two about hacking. Nothing illegal, just a way to see her phone activity if she was foolish enough to keep using it. I already knew from her messages that she was still chatting with Greg, still lying about her whereabouts, still carrying on like nothing had happened. What really hurt me was realizing how easily she lied. She told me she was just talking with Greg, but the messages said otherwise. Flirty comments, missed you today, can't wait to see you again, and even some explicit stuff. I found myself reading through them over and over, feeling this sick twist in my stomach. How could someone I loved do this to me? How could she be so callous, so indifferent to the damage she was causing? It made me question everything about her, about us. I also started to notice other signs, things she'd been hiding. Small stuff, really, secretive texts, late nights, her dismissiveness when I tried to ask about her day. It was all lining up. I felt like I'd been played for a fool, and the worst part was I wasn't even angry at her anymore. I was just numb. I kept telling myself I should be furious, but deep down I was just tired. Tired of the lies, tired of feeling betrayed, tired of feeling like I didn't even know who she was anymore. One night I decided to confront her again, but this time differently. I told her I knew everything, the messages, the sneaking around, the lies. I told her I wasn't going to beg or plead for her to stay or try to fix things. I just wanted to hear her admit it. I needed her to say it out loud, to own up to what she did. She looked at me, eyes cold and defiant, and then she started with her usual bullshit. You're overreacting. It's not what you think. You're crazy to think I'd do something like that. Cut her off. No, Jenny, I've seen the evidence. I know you've been sleeping with Greg, and I don't need your lies anymore. Just tell me the truth. Are you in love with him? Are you leaving me for him? She hesitated for a moment, then sneered. It's none of your business. You think I can't do better than you. I don't owe you anything. Maybe I'll take Greg and leave, and you'll just be the fool you always were. That was the moment I realized I'd hit the final edge of my patience. I knew I had to decide. Walk away for good or try to salvage the wreckage. But honestly, I felt beyond repairing. The trust was gone. The love I thought we shared, completely shattered. I looked at her, that bitchy, smug face, and I knew I couldn't stay. I told her she needed to leave that night, that I wanted her out of the house. She yelled, screamed, called me every name in the book, but I didn't care. I wasn't about to let her manipulate me anymore. As she packed her things, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. Part of me wanted to feel victorious, to finally be free. But underneath it all, I felt hollow, like I'd lost a part of myself that I'd never get back. I kept thinking about how she'd lied, how she'd betrayed everything we had, how someone I'd trusted for so long had turned into a stranger. That betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible. The house suddenly felt huge and cold without her. Every room echoed with memories of better times, now tainted with her lies and deceit. I watched her leave, her bitchy smirk still in place, and I realized I wasn't just losing her, I was losing the idea of what I thought our life was supposed to be. I tried to hold on to the anger, to the rage that I thought would help me move forward. But deep down, I knew I was just hurting, trying to find some reason not to feel broken. That night, I sat alone, staring at the empty space beside me on the couch. I thought about all the moments I'd ignored, the signs I'd missed, the things I wished I could undo. I questioned whether I'd ever really known her, whether I'd ever been enough. And I wondered how I was supposed to live with this kind of betrayal, that someone I loved and trusted could become such a stranger. Every part of me screamed for revenge, for some kind of justice. But I knew I had to hold back, at least for now. I had to breathe, to let the shock settle, and to figure out what was next for me. I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to trust again, but I knew one thing: I'd never let her or anyone else treat me that way again. The days after she left were some of the hardest I've ever had to face. The house was silent. No more bitchy comments, no more lies, no more her dragging her heels around like she owned the place. It was just me, left to deal with the wreckage of everything. I spent most of my time sitting on that damn couch, staring at the spot she'd just vacated, sometimes crying, sometimes just numb. I couldn't quite process what had happened or how I'd let myself get so blindsided. In the beginning, I kept telling myself I did the right thing, that I was finally rid of her toxicity, that I could start healing now. But then at night, that same ache crept in. The part of me that loved her, the part that believed in us, refused to die. I kept asking myself, how did it get this far? How did I not see the signs? How did I let her manipulate me into thinking she was innocent? It was like waking up from a nightmare, only to find out it was real. And in that nightmare, I was the fool. I decided I needed some space from everything. My mind was too cluttered with thoughts of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. I couldn't keep living in this fog, so I started to focus on myself, going to the gym, working late, trying to keep busy. But no matter what I did, I kept coming back to that feeling of loss. I'd loved her, believed in her, and now I knew she'd never cared about me the way I thought she did. The idea that she could lie, cheat, and still look herself in the mirror without guilt, it messed me up more than anything. One evening, I finally sat down and looked through all the evidence I'd gathered. The text messages, the calls, the sneaky photos. It was brutal to see it all laid out, proof of how deeply she'd been lying to my face. I felt this mix of anger and sadness, anger that I'd been played for a fool, and sadness because I'd loved her so much, only to find she was capable of this level of deception. I realized that I'd been holding on to hope that she'd somehow change, that she'd come back and be the woman I thought I knew. But after everything I'd seen, I knew that was pointless. That's when I made a decision. I could keep living in this unhealthy, toxic relationship. I needed to cut all ties for my own sanity. So I started the process of moving out, finding a new place, and slowly rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy, and I didn't do it overnight. There were moments I wanted to call her, to ask her why, to scream at her for what she'd done. But I knew that wouldn't help. The only thing that mattered now was moving forward, even if it felt like I was walking through mud. I also reached out to a few close friends, guys I could trust, to talk about everything. It helped to get it off my chest and hear some honest advice. One friend told me, "You got played, man, but you're better off without her. She's not the woman you thought she was." That was hard to hear, but it made sense. I'd spent years thinking she was some loyal, bitchy, but loving woman. Turns out she was just a master manipulator, and I was just another fool she'd used to fill her emptiness. Looking back, I realize I've learned some tough lessons. Trust is fragile, and people can hide who they really are behind a mask. I also learned that sometimes love isn't enough to save a relationship that's built on lies and betrayal. The hardest part was accepting that I might never fully forgive her, or even want to, but I also know I deserve better. I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect. So now I'm in a different place. I still feel the pain, but I'm starting to feel a little stronger. I'm trying to rebuild my confidence and remember what I want in life. It's not easy, and I know I'll probably carry this scar for a long time. But I also know that I'm not going to let her or anyone else treat me that way again. I won't be a victim of betrayal forever. I'll find a way to heal, to trust again, even if it takes a long time. because I learned the hard way that nobody's worth losing your self-respect over. Not her, not Greg, nobody. And if I've gained anything from this nightmare, it's a clearer understanding of what I need and what I absolutely won't tolerate anymore. In the end, I realized that the hardest part wasn't just losing her or discovering her lies, but facing the truth about what I'd allowed myself to accept for so long. I was blind to the signs, naive enough to think she was different, and too trusting because I loved her. That love, that blind faith, almost destroyed me. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. Surviving betrayal like this forces you to face your own limits, to reevaluate what you want from life, and to rebuild from the ground up. I won't pretend it's easy. Some nights are still tough, and I catch myself thinking about all the what-ifs. What if I had noticed sooner? What if I hadn't trusted her so blindly? But those thoughts are fading little by little. What's left is a clearer vision of who I am now, someone who's been hurt but isn't broken, someone who's learned to stand up after falling hard. I've been through a lot of pain, but I've also gained perspective. I understand that honesty and loyalty are the foundation of any real relationship. Without them, everything crumbles. I've also learned not to take shit from anyone anymore, especially someone who betrays you and then lies about it. My trust isn't something I'll give lightly anymore. Not to her. And not to anyone else. Most importantly, I've realized that I don't need to be with someone who doesn't value me. I deserve someone who respects me, who is honest, and who understands that love isn't about hiding or betrayal. I've started focusing on myself, my goals, my happiness. I finally feel like I'm taking control again, even if the scars remain. I want to say to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how much you want things to be different. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's better than living in denial. Love isn't about sacrificing your dignity or your peace of mind. Stand up for yourself. Walk away if you need to, because in the end, your self-respect is what matters most. I don't regret what happened, not really. It's a painful lesson, but one I needed to learn. The world isn't perfect, and people will often disappoint you, sometimes in ways you never saw coming. But I know now that I can survive it. I can rebuild. And one day, I believe I'll find someone who's worthy of my trust, my love, and my respect. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, one step at a time, carrying the lessons I've learned and the scars that remind me why I'll never accept betrayal again.